time. 60% of the time. What's going on, Internet? This is MJT Football. I'm your host, Tony Tucker. I'm joined by the NFL Mike and the Joe Morley. All the social medias. Go follow them. We appreciate you stopping by. Today, we are talking about the AFC and NFC South Predictions. This is one of our favorite shows. We'll even talk about how we did last year at the very end of the show, maybe even during. I don't know. We don't have like a super tight script on this show. We just like to hang out and have fun talking football. As we say here, we're three friends who love talking football. We're always looking for a fourth, so consider hitting the subscribe button, joining us. That way you'll know when we're live and talking football. These are just opinions. I try to be optimistic. I know some people are going to think, why does this guy hate my team? He's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. And you're probably right. But we love talking about football and having fun. Mike, you seem ready. I'm going to start with you. Mike, how are you doing? I see the free agent shirt.
I was born ready. Yeah, this is my announcement. I'm leaving the podcast. I'm a free agent. I'm just kidding. He wants to sign me.
I heard a good question today when I was listening to Greenlight, one of my favorite pods hosted by Chris Long, and he was talking about if he could trade anybody from his pod to another pod to acquire somebody. I think Mike probably has the most value on our show because of your social media following. Like if you could be traded to a podcast, which one would you want to be traded to?
I don't want to get traded, man. I'm just kidding. I want to stay on this podcast.
No,
but it's a hypothetical situation, some like popular podcast that I could just jump on.
Yeah, like if you were going to join like a podcast draft, who would you want to be drafted?
I think the only one I'm even going to make it like through a week on is the Pat McAfee show. Every other show is probably booting me pretty quickly when I start speaking.
All right.
So I'm going Pat McAfee, the most boring answer I could have went with, because honestly, guys, I don't mean to burst any bubbles. I don't listen to podcasts either. So,
goodness gracious, what a bum.
I did forget one thing. Everyone that's tuned into this, please like the video and subscribe before you forget. If you're a football fan, like Tony was saying, we're just football fans looking for more football fans to talk football with. So if you're a football fan, please hit the football button, and that's the subscribe button.
Oh, man. You just hit the algorithm code with football.
Exactly. Trying to get our SEO up.
Mike's all about D's, and that's it.
Joe, how are you doing? Do you want to answer the question? If you could be drafted by a podcast, or what would that be? What would it look like?
I would switch with Micah Parsons. That way I could talk shit about the Cowboys all day.
I think Micah sometimes wants to talk shit about the Cowboys, but he
you can have him over here.
Yeah,
and we're about the same either. We're like same looking, got the same money. Micah and I are about even. So,
Joe, just go on Max Crosby's pod. Just get drafted to the pod. You can get on there and just basically be like Max's bodyguard with words. Just fend off all the negativity that he can't speak on that you can speak on. Basically, you could be like that Connor dude on the Pat McAfee show, the one dumb dude that just yells about the Patriots all the time. You could basically be that for Max, like a shield.
Shit, I didn't know we were taking shots at people on these podcasts.
He's never. Actually, you know what I'm talking about, right? Connor. He just.
To be honest, Connor? But I think I did.
Yes, Boston Connor. His role is to act crazy on the podcast, so that because Pat McAfee can't act that next level of fucking crazy.
To be honest, I watch clips, but I have never watched the Pat McAfee show like other people do. Not in that regularity.
You notice how I don't judge you, Tony, for not watching things, and I just am okay with it.
Yeah, but I mean, I still watch like at least 10 other podcasts that I find informational and entertaining at the same time.
Like this one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to speak it into existence. Chargers Weekly. I'm going to go be the third wheel for Hayrie and Matt Money Smith, so I can talk Chargers football. That will be a lot of fun for me.
Treat it like a counseling session where you guys could just cry each and every week and get all your.
I can't wait till we get to the South. I bounce back and forth. I tried to give the realistic one, and the longer it takes for us to get to the West predictions, the number keeps going up and up and up. Harrison, what's going on, brother? We are talking NFC South. Well, we're going to start there in a second. Let's do let's do like 5 minutes of news. I was very bummed to hear about the JJ McCarthy news. Of course, it had to be the awful Raiders who he gets hurt in that game. He had a tremendous debut. Even with the interception, I thought he looked great. Did some stuff in the game that people thought was, like, oh, well, they only run the ball at Michigan. JJ can't do this, that, and whatever. It's like, I don't know. Did a pretty good job in my viewing, standpoint. So I was bummed to see that, and I will not lie, that did hurt the Vikings in my predictions. Like I've been talking about, you guys were going to be shocked about my Vikings, ranking this year. I do think that having somebody like JJ McCarthy as the backup on that team, where if he would have been ready to step in, slow starts, anything like that, I thought that was.
I thought you were all about Sam Darnold. Now you're all sad about JJ McCarthy. The only guy sadder than you is Cam on Twitter, the guy who's been building up JJ McCarthy like the next Patrick Mahomes, the next greatest quarterback. Hey, JJ McCarthy, I don't know exactly when he got hurt, and it's interesting I would like to know. But it's kind of weird that he comes out, calls the Raiders, go up against the vanilla defense, and then he leaves the game hurt. And now he's out for the whole season. He's the first rookie quarterback to be drafted and be out for the season with the season injury in preseason. Did you guys know that?
No.
Crazy, right? Yes. So the first rookie quarterback to be drafted the first round and leave injured for the whole season in the preseason. But I liked what JJ McCarthy, but let's be honest, the Vikings weren't going to do much this year anyways, with him or without him. He's the youngest quarterback to in the first 6 quarterbacks that were drafted, and he was the one with the least expectations on him this year. So I think it might be a better thing for the Vikings because they're not forced to rush him out there this season. But Antonio Pierce did say earlier this year, don't worry about our quarterback, worry about yours. So can we chalk this up as Raiders defense 1, quarterback 0? Can we do that?
Well, if that's true and that's real, we can also start chalking up those suspensions, for all of the Raiders defensive players and coaches. Yeah, man, I think I'm in between you guys. Like I'm with Joe in the fact that I didn't have super high hopes for the Vikings, but I'm with Tony also in a sense that this hurts and that this is not better off that JJ is going to sit out a year with a torn meniscus than if he was just there. I think that the plan was that Sam Darnold's going to be the QB1 until he loses that job on the field. And then they were going to roll with JJ a few games into the season, and we would have seen where it went from there. So I feel like I'm in between you guys, where I don't think it's going to make a big difference in their win total. Maybe they don't have that late season push from JJ getting in there and getting some experience that I thought before. But at the same time, I don't think by any means that this is good or better off or a blessing in disguise or anything like that. Like, this guy needs the experience his rookie year.
Yeah, it's just a bummer, getting drafted and then having that be the result, especially after looking good. It's not like he went out there and looked bad. So
rookie years are overrated. Rookie year experience for quarterbacks are overrated. There's a guy in Kansas City that played 1 game his rookie year. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he played like 3/4 of the entire preseason too. And he sat behind Alex Smith, a 10-year veteran, for an entire
season. And then there's a guy in Los Angeles who set rookie records and did the best rookie year.
Am I allowed to speak, Joe?
No, we're trading.
The M and MJT stands for Mike, So Mike should be able to talk here. I lost my train of thought.
Or it stands for muted.
For muted. It's not good that you have the power to mute me at any moment. We should remove that from Joe.
Go ahead, speak, Mike, if you want to talk.
I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say transition to Herbert.
I was going to say that it's crazy to say that Patrick Mahomes' sophomore year, that the rookie year had nothing to do with it, in my opinion. I think that him sitting that rookie year, getting that experience, learning the offense, becoming the player that he became, set him up for the explosion his sophomore year. JJ could have done that this year with Sam Darnold. Not the exact same situation, but could have done that.
There are 0 positives from having a season-ending injury. Like there's nothing I can see where it's like, oh, well, maybe there's this or that, or no. You miss time rehabbing. you miss reps in practice, you miss the opportunity to be on the field. It just, all of those things are negative things, and it's unfortunate. Michigan, I'm always going to have the back of Michigan players. Let's talk. We are talking NFC South today. Let's talk about the acquisitions that they made in the 48-hour period of the Falcons. One of the big question marks was their defense, and they go out and they trade for Matthew Judon. I forgot to get the details of that trade, so maybe if one of you guys have them, that would be great. And then they signed. What was it?
I think it's a
third-round pick. I think that makes sense to me. It depends on what they have to then pay him, because he won a new contract. Hopefully they aren't the Jets, and they are going to actually understand that Matthew Judon wants to be, have higher compensation. So I would say adding an edge rusher, a veteran edge rusher like Matthew Judon, who I think is one of those guys that's very underrated every year. We don't talk about the amount of pressure that he applies and how good he is. And then you add somebody like Justin Simmons to the back end, and now you're going to have Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons as your safeties. I think that's a big boost for the Falcons. We'll get more into that in a second. But what was Mike? What were your thoughts when you saw Judon getting dealt over there?
I mean, it made sense. That was one of the teams I was looking at that seemed like they had the cap space, and they were in a position where they kind of want to try and push winning now while they have Kirk Cousins aging on that deal. So it kind of made sense when the news came through. I wasn't super shocked that was the team that landed him. But then when the Justin Simmons thing piled on top of it, I was like, damn, Atlanta out of nowhere, because I didn't have super high hopes for this defense. I did think they're going to be a little bit improved just from growing together and adding a few guys, but I didn't think it was going to have the leap that I think the offense is going to take for Atlanta this year. So I think that this is going to be big for the Falcons. You get a guy that's going to speed up the quarterback's timing, and Matthew Judon consistently has been doing it his entire career. And then up top, a ball hawk like Justin Simmons and a very, very sure tackler coming downhill to help you out and run defense as well. This gives the Falcons defense a major lift kind of out of nowhere, out of the blue, out of the clouds. And it just pushes the facts more towards that they're all in. They're pushing the chips in. They got 2 years of Kirk Cousins to try and win this thing. We'll see how it goes. It's gonna be interesting to see this QB situation for Atlanta especially develop. Yeah, you guys like the hair? I got the hair down, hair down, ready to clown Joe if you want to come over.
What the fuck? Don't tee up Joe like that. Come on, Joe, go.
Hey, be like, Joe. He'll be trying to stop me from talking again. Well, I was questioning why Justin Simmons hasn't been signed all offseason, and why did it take so damn long? But now I think this is a perfect situation for him. And Matthew Judon, we were waiting. We knew it was boiling over in New England and where he's going to get traded. I think Atlanta bounced on it and did it at the right time. What a great situation for both people. And it, like, most of the time you're good enough to bring one guy in, but to bring two guys in and at key positions for this defense, it's gonna be good. And when we get to our predictions for this division, you guys are gonna question me then.
Well, thank you for that, Joe. Because the Falcons were going to be giving snaps, hypothetically, to Braylon Trice, a rookie out of Washington, who I really like, but he goes down with a knee injury. Matthew Judon becomes a huge upgrade in that. Now, let's get into our NFC South record predictions for what it is. Joe just made some pretty heavy comments about the additions there, but the place that I want to start is, who is your last place team, the Joe Morley, for the NFC South?
Harrison, is he still in here? Because I hope he's not listening, because I have the Carolina Panthers finishing last in that division one more time.
Yeah, that's seems about right. Expand on that. Because they did, you bring in Canales. He's shown promise with young QBs. They invested offensive line. Why is it still going to be last place? And what's the record prediction? Where you have them at? How many wins, losses? What's the
I wanted to go. I was trying to look at different ways, because I do like the Canales hire, and I'm not trying to knock him, but I just think this whole division is weaker. I'm not sold on the Deontay Johnson acquisition like everybody else is, like saying he's going to come in and make a difference for Bryce. No, he's not, because have you ever watched Deontay Johnson? Every fucking game is a headache with him, especially if you're a fantasy football owner. He's down, he's up, he's down, he's up. Then you already have questions with Leggett and his availability and his health. He's already got hurt. That I'm not trusting the offensive line. I know you gave that big old money to Robert Hunt, but yeah, okay. And then the defense, I've always liked Carolina's defense. I just don't think it's enough to get it going. I think they're a building team and they're going in the right direction. If their owner doesn't step on their own nuts again, let this Dave Canales and this offense keep going and building people. But it's just we're a year too early. And really, do we even believe Jadeveon Clowney is about anything anymore? Like, now he's just a name on a defense that we're like, oh, Clowney's there. So, anyways, I do have the Carolina Panthers. I have their record. I have them going 4-13.
Yeah, I mean, the Clowney thing, it seems like the Clowney thing's more of a depth thing. I'll just go straight into it, Tony, because I have the Panthers as well in last place here. But Harrison, don't get too mad at us. And any other Panthers fans that see this in the clip-ups or the replays, I have them doubling their win total from last year. Like, I have them improving. I think that they got better. They added some more weapons, like Joe was saying, and Deontay Johnson and Leggett for Bryce Young to get the ball too. They added some to this offensive line, but the amount of leaps that they're going to need to take to compete with the teams they have on this schedule, it's tough. And I still like the Buccaneers to be a wild card team or a playoff team or a division winner of this division, competing with the Falcons and trying not to spoil too much here. But I don't think the Panthers take down the Bucs or the Falcons a single time this season. There's 4 losses right there in the division. And then we talk about the Chargers and the Raiders and the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Cowboys and the other teams on this schedule.
Yeah, Harrison's getting in here and saying that Clowney did have a better season than Burns last year. I think that's also a little bit too of the structure and the system that Clowney was in last year with the Ravens, like having such a productive season, right? Like, one thing I do think is that they did put emphasis on the part that I think is most crucial to winning football games, right? You're focusing on the defensive line. They're adding guys like Ashawn Robinson, who I think is an underrated player, and Jadeveon Clowney, both guys that I think are good against the run there. Offensive line, Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. So you're trying to, to fortify the trenches, which is very, very important. With that being said, 3-14, because you can't tell me that a team can have that big of a turnaround with how difficult the schedule is on there, because I do think they did really well in free agency and bringing in pros, but it's just got to be such a jump for Bryce Young and the amount of pressure that's there, because it's not just that Bryce Young is going to be compared to CJ Stroud, who's had a monster year, and then the Texans were able to even go crazier. We're going to talk about them when we get to the AFC South in free agency this year for him. But now it's that the Bears were able to get Caleb Williams because of that pick. So now he's compared to that guy too. And if the schedule, if it looks like they might end up with the first pick again, then all of the conversations start for Bryce Young. Are they looking at fill in the blank, Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Beck, I believe his name is, from Georgia, whatever that top QB are they looking to replace him going into year 3? So he's fighting 3 narratives. Like, he's going to have noise canceling headphones on all year in a new system with, like, I was hoping for more. I thought Jonathan Mingo would have more impact in year 1. Maybe, Canales is the key to unlocking that. I think Deontay Johnson is better than what Joe gave him credit for. That guy just seems to be always open. Has a little trouble catching the ball sometimes, but he's always getting open. And then I do think Xavier Leggett can have some big impact plays for him this year. But I just don't see this team. And when 3 wins, could I see him at 5 or 6 wins? Yeah, I could see that. But just the way that it worked out when I was going through, I went game by game again this year and did my picks and then put some fine tuning on certain things. I just had him around that 3 to 5 win team, still vying for that top pick.
Now, if Brooks was 100% healthy and he was actually going to start before week 4 or week 5, I might have been able to give him 1 or 2 more games because that's kind of a guy that I'm looking at could be a difference maker for the Panthers if they can get a running game going and take a little bit of pressure off of Young. But I don't look at Hubbard and Miles Sanders as those guys to do it anymore. I know they still have a little bit left in the tank, but I was hoping that Brooks would come in and be like that young guy that carries this team. But with him being hurt, I just can't give. I think I'm pushing and giving him 4 wins, and that's me being generous because Harris is in the house.
Well, I'm with you, Joe, on that. I think I have him at 5 wins. I think it's generous because when I look at this, in order for them to get to 5 wins, I got to call 3 upsets. So even to get to there, I'm calling multiple upsets in the season. And like Tony was saying, nail on the head statement, the jump Bryce Young has to take to even flip 3 upsets versus what is going to be required to have like a CJ Stroud Texans like turnaround for the Panthers this year, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 upsets. It's just
Harrison. Harrison said that it's crazy that we're getting them this many wins with those kind of weapons. If you would have told me Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson were on the same team in 2017, I'd have been like, God damn, you guys are dominating. I don't know. And
also, like 5 wins or 6 wins is the same as 7 wins, man. That's kind of where I have it too, Harrison. So we kind of agree with you here.
Yeah, and clearly I've been completely wrong about all of this stuff in the past, and will continue to be. And I root for Bryce Young. I was wrong. I said that I would have made him the first round pick if I had to. I wouldn't have traded what they traded to get there, but if I then had that pick and I was in that spot, I would have taken Bryce Young. I root for that young man to succeed. And I think one of the positive things we saw from him last year was, can he take hits at the NFL level? Can he be out there? And I think he played at least maybe all the games, but he played at least 16 of the games. So, that's something CJ Stroud wasn't able to do, wasn't able to stay healthy for all the games on the field. So it's like, that's a bonus for them headed into this year. I'm interested to see, Canales year 1. There's just so much transition and craziness around the organization because of the owner.
And they should have that, Tony. That's the thing is like, it might work out. Canales might be fine. I'm liking some of the clips I'm seeing. I saw a clip of him singing some Bob Marley or something in front of the team. That was a lot of fun. I wish Frank Reich was still the coach of this team. They would have just seen that through and seen what he was going to do, at least in this first, couple years with Bryce Young, and then make the move off of Reich if things aren't going well, instead of, first season just because the team sucks. It sucks. It sucked last year that Frank Reich gets the axe right away like that.
Here and Harrison, I know you're upset with our predictions, and of course, every Panther player or fan would be upset if somebody goes, "Your team's only winning 4 games." Steve from the Panthers and from Dave Canales. This is what Canales was brought into. You want to see the improvement of Bryce Young throughout this season and have him grow. He did it with Geno Smith 2 years ago. Yeah. He did it with Baker Mayfield last year, and now he's going to do it with Bryce Young. And the wins and losses, they do matter in the NFL, but with a team like this, you're not looking at the wins and losses. You're looking at how close the games are. They're not getting blown out. They're not looking stupid on the field. They know what they're doing, and that will build up for next year. I think what really hurt Carolina this year is missing that first round pick that they would have had. That would have been one more extra player that could have gave them somewhere else. And it would have been a top 10 pick. It would have been number 1 overall pick that they could have done whatever they wanted to. But yeah, I think that hurts them real bad.
It would have been Marvin Harrison Jr.
Well, I don't know. I will say this lastly. With them pushing back the trade deadline that extra week, I do think that there's an opportunity for more teams to become sellers at the deadline, where teams might reach out and say, "Hey, what's the action on Clowney? Can we send a 4th round pick to add him to our team that's trying to, compete here at this portion of the year because we need D-line help?" And I think the Panthers could have a shot where they say, like, let's get some of these young guys on the field and let's try to add some more draft capital to our weaponry going forward, because those type of things are, what you hope for with your organization. Like, can we build forward? And for any of the Panthers fans to be like super upset, it's like this. We kind of saw this last year when tickets were being sold for like 50 cents or whatever it was. Like, we already know that they're pissed off about what's going on around there. it is hope season. So, like I could see Panthers fans saying like, we're a 9-10 win team, because that's what time of year we're in right now. Speaking of 9 or 10 wins,
Panthers tickets, Tony, it's for, I want to see the owner throw some soda at a fan. I want to see the owner act stupid. I think we'll see more looking at the owner's box than looking on the field. We'll see more action up there.
I think they have too much talent for that. I do think they'll be competitive, even though my win total doesn't reflect that. But 9 or 10 wins, we were just talking about that. That's been good enough to win this division. So I'm going to go to Mike on this one. Who is your division winner for the NFC South?
Oh, we're going to the top of it now.
Yep, we're going from the bottom to the top.
And see, Duct Tape Dynasty, we're not avoiding your question here. It's just really off topic. Maybe at the end of the show, we'll talk about Colin Kaepernick to the Chargers, which has already been declined. But I have the Atlanta Falcons winning this division, guys. I was on the fence of which way to go between the Falcons and the Buccaneers when I was preparing for this episode, and just thinking about what they added to the pass rush, added to the secondary. I have to just give the Falcons that slight edge. I also look at the Falcons schedule, and it's hard. It's almost the same as the Panthers schedule, but I like these matchups a lot better. I think that the Falcons can handle this schedule a lot better than the Panthers will with what they have and the experience they've added at quarterback. I think this offense has potential to be a top 10 offense immediately with Kirk Cousins. So I have the Falcons at 11-6. I think that's about right where they'll be. I think that 10-11 wins is going to win this division this year. And I think that the Falcons are going to be the team to do it.
11-6 for the Atlanta Falcons is what you got, huh?
You look at the team; they looked good last year. There were moments where the Falcons were on upset alert on my TV. It seems like week after week after week. So I think that the addition of Kirk Cousins is just going to make this offense go to the next level. And it's the Bijan Robinson show. Tyler Algier is still there, so it doesn't get too crazy on the volume. But let him loose. Let him loose, Raheem. Let him loose.
Let me just, I'm going to kick it to you in a second here, Joe. I just want to say this. They bring in Zach Robinson from the McVay tree. This is somebody that I think can help the transition for Kirk Cousins. Joe, go ahead.
I, too, have the Atlanta Falcons winning this division, but I don't have 11 wins. I got them winning it with 9-8. 9-8
Okay.
is what's taking this division. And we've seen it. This is the division like that, 8 wins has won it before. So it's not nothing different. They beat up on each other. Yeah. I think we have that keyed up too somewhere. We should have played that one. But yeah, I have them at 9-8. I have the Atlanta Falcons winning the division 9-8. Same thing. I like Kirk. I like the offense. I wasn't sold on the defense, and I was questioning it. If we would have done these predictions like last week, before Justin Simmons and Matthew Judon, maybe I would have dropped them 1 or 2 more games or 3 more games. But I like those. Jesse Bates and Justin Simmons in your running your safety positions should be a pretty damn good defense. Shouldn't be able to do a lot against them. And look at the quarterbacks they're going up against, and that's kind of why I picked. I was more on the Falcons to win this division. Is I'm just looking at who has the better quarterback in this division. And it's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. So Falcons acquisitions, obviously Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney. And to me, it started off a little bit slow, but then when you add the names of Judon and Simmons, it does start to look like a more impressive offseason of names that at least the average fans recognize there. They didn't lose too much in the departures department. Jonnu Smith, Jeff Okudah, Cordell Patterson, and Matt Collins, some special teams, which I think that kind of hurts that aspect of it. Those are 2 guys that I think are really going to thrive in this new kickoff, dynamic kickoff, or whatever the NFL is calling it. So I think that's there. I want to say this, and I wrote this down in my notes when watching Michael Penix. I think Michael Penix is starting this year at some point. And I would say Atlanta Falcons fans need to be very, very sort of patient with what happens. They open the season, Steelers, then they go on the road to Philadelphia, and then the Chiefs. Those are the first 3 weeks. What happens if this team starts 0-3? The fans are going to be saying, we want to see Michael Penix out there. Like, I think they need to be very patient with what happens. Now, could the Falcons, if the Falcons run off 3-0 with that start, then it's Kirk Chains, it's Falcons to the moon type conversations. But on the other hand, it's a situation where you drafted for the future and it looks great. I have said that I like the move. I wouldn't have had the balls to do it, but I really applaud the move, and I think long term it'll work out for them. But we're in a situation where it's like week 4, we got the Saints coming into our building. We're 1-2. Like, we just got boat raced by the Chiefs' new offense because Hollywood Brown is back out there. Like, where are we at here? Like, I don't know. I know Raheem Morris was there in the past, but we're talking about a whole new team since then that's there and trying to incorporate it. And how much is Kirk Cousins able to do off that Achilles and stuff like that? And is the offensive line still going to have the same ability that it had a year ago? You can't guarantee that, even though all of those guys are back, and I do think it's good. I have the Falcons also at 9-8, but they are my second team in the division. But I like to see that you guys are, there. And when Taylor Heineke gets cut, we need a backup out here in Los Angeles. So
who do you have number 1?
Send them our way.
Who do you have number 1?
There it is, Joe. Number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I got them at 10-7. And when you look at the Bucs offseason, for me, it's like they didn't spend a lot free agent wise on free agents outside of the Buccaneers because they know that the core's there. It's established. They made one of the toughest transitions in football, which is not having Tom Brady in your locker room anymore. And we've seen what that has done to the Patriots. The Buccaneers were able to lose Tom Brady, and Baker Mayfield came in year 1, and they kept the division winning streak going. And last year, I was really low on the Buccaneers, even though I'm a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I think he's super entertaining, and I think that he's a good quarterback, can be very good at times. But the acquisitions for them is like they re-up with Baker Mayfield in a contract that we don't think cripples their salary cap. Levante David, somebody who would be a future Hall of Famer for me, I think keeping him around, keeping the culture going is great. Mike Evans, he decides not to go to Kansas City. When I heard him say oh yeah, we were looking at KC and whatever, I was like, and he's like, my wife said we need to stay in Tampa. I was like, we all need to get a GoFundMe together and send this woman on vacation, like a fully pampered package, because I would have hated Mike Evans in Kansas City. And they're able to retain and keep good grounds with Antoine Winfield Jr. They're bringing in another OC from the McVay tree. I think it's Liam Cohen there. So I think Baker's going to be in a good spot there. I really liked the rookie that they got, Jalen McMillan from Washington. So now you have Trey Palmer, who had some breakout moments last year, behind Godwin, behind Evans. I think this offense has a chance to be very good, along with Todd Bowles' defenses are always right there. So I got the Bucs at 10-7.
I'm with you, Tony, and I'm kind of hedging my bets here a little bit, but I think it's between these two teams, and it's going to be razor close and come down to probably the games against each other down the stretch of the season. I think they play each other week 14 or something. No, they play each other twice early in the year in the first half. So that's interesting to see. But I had the Bucs at 10-7 also, Tony, coming in second. It's just I had the Falcons winning so many games, but like you're saying, at the start of the season, I have them upsetting either Philly or KC, one of the two, open the year 2-1. That flips, or they lose that Pittsburgh game to start the year. My record prediction is flipping to the Buccaneers winning this division right then and there. So I'm with you on the Bucs. I also think that Baker Mayfield is underrated too. I think that the gap between him and Kirk Cousins isn't as wide as the gap between Kirk Cousins and the other two quarterbacks in this league, especially Derek Carr.
Where the fuck are you guys finding all these wins for this shitty ass division? This is historically one of the worst divisions in the regular season. Where the fuck are you finding all these wins? Given just 11 wins here, 10 wins there. These guys don't win regular season games.
There's 4 teams in this division, Joe, and I have 32 total wins.
Oh my God.
This is insane. Like, I had the Saints at 7-10, the Panthers at 5-12, the Bucs at 10-7, the Falcons at 11-6. which is just a few off of yours, right? What do you have the Bucks at?
I have the Bucks at 7-10.
3-win difference.
So I have them in third place of the division. So here I have Falcons 9-8, Falcons 9-8, Saints 8-9, Bucks 7-10, and the Panthers 4-13.
Damn, you got the Saints winning a lot of games at 8-9.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler is going to be badass.
But I have them at 7-10, so I only have them off by 1. That's my point. I'm being sarcastic here.
We're not to the Saints yet. Mike, that was an interesting way that you worded it. I have 27 wins for this division. I just feel like the Bucks suffer from being in Tampa Bay. Like that's really like a real thing because the fan base just doesn't get enough. They don't get enough of the major market games. Like just think about the amount of really good players that they have on this team. Like imagine if Mike Evans was a Cowboys receiver and he's done what he did. We would be talking about him as, like up there with all-time great wide receivers. Like he would be, and we don't even look at him. Like we don't even talk about him like that. Like every year we do lists of top 10s and I don't see Mike Evans on any of those lists, right? Like they're bringing in the new offensive coordinator who talks about using Godwin like they use Cooper Kupp. Like these type of things I think just get overlooked because the Bucks don't get the same amount of coverage. But every year their defense is sound. They're good up the middle with David and Winfield playing, we got safety linebacker and you got Vita Vea. Like they're just stout all the way through the defense. I do think that the pass rushing could be a bit of a problem this year, but that's where Bowles just needs to get a little creative. So the Bucks win the division, the last 4 years, and then we're supposed to be more excited about the Falcons because they got a new defensive head coach and a 36-year-old quarterback who's coming off of an ACL injury. Like I have the Falcons at 9 wins, but if I'm going to give the edge to one of the teams, I'm giving it to the Buccaneers.
To go back to the Falcons also in the QB situation that they're in, like if the reality happens where either Kirk has let's hope he doesn't get hurt, but even a minor injury and MPJ gets in there and he's good enough to where it's like clear, you can't come off of him. Or if like you're saying, Tony, they're struggling and MPJ gets in there, like is Kirk Cousins potentially getting shipped out of Atlanta in year 1? It's going to be tough. And like what teams are going to be looking at him? So I know a team that needs a quarterback next year, but I don't want to say it because I feel like they're going to extend Dak. But
so I think that I've seen and heard and read a few things where like they can technically get out after 1 year where it's not that crippling. Like it's still, less of a cap hit or something crazy like that, where it's like around what Russell Wilson and the Eagles have done it with Carson Wentz, where guys have signed big contracts and they've owed a lot of money. The Rams went through it with Goff, and we've seen this situation before where it's been like that. They can. If Michael Penix is the one that wins games, because that's what this business is about, you need to keep your job and you need to do that by winning games, by winning the division. So yeah, could the Falcons win the division? I think so. I think there's a little bit more swirling around them. And there's a more continuity with the Bucks. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think the offensive line is a big part of it too. Like I really like the addition of Graham Barton for the Buccaneers at center. I think that having somebody there and like, will there be some bumps maybe early on in the season with a rookie at center? Sure. Playing that position for the first time since like his sophomore year at Duke. There could be some bumps, but by the end, I think he'll be rocking and rolling.
Give the ball to Bijan, please. Please give it to Bijan over and over and over and over again.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun
to me though, because last year I think I rode with the Saints being like 11-6 or something like that. Same thing because of the whole QB acquisition, and it just completely went wrong.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the Saints because that is our final team to talk about with the NFC South. So I have the Saints finishing third in this division at 5-12, and the reason that I am so low on the Saints, and I know Saints fans see this, that I'm an idiot and whatever. I just think Dennis Allen starting the season on the hot seat. You have Derek Carr there. And when I look at the offensive line for this team, there's just way too many question marks about how it's going to be. And if you have a quarterback that is as good as Derek Carr is, but needs that comfort, needs that time in the pocket, has a tendency to maybe be a little more protective with the ball. I'm trying to find the right way to word this. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a situation where he's going to be able to thrive. Then you have people fighting for jobs, placing blame. The defense is still really good. DeMario Davis, another one of those underrated guys I don't think we talk about enough. Cam Jordan's still there. The acquisition of Chase Young, does that work out? Does he maybe reach potential a couple years removed from a serious knee injury? I just look around and I go, at what point do the wheels fall off and people just start pointing fingers, and then the fans demand they want to see Spencer Rattler? Like, I saw some hilarious comments where it was like, why are we, what are we doing playing Spencer Rattler so much? We need to protect him for the regular season. Like, let's put Derek Carr back out there. I'm like, holy shit, man. Saints fans turned on this guy really quick. So I can see the Saints winning 9 or 10 games, but more often than not, when I'm doing the game predictions for them, I have them losing the football game.
Fade the Saints, in other words.
Joe, what do you got on the Saints?
Well, this is another team. Like I have them going 8-9, but I could also see them like you said, Tony. This could be that team that explodes, and then by week 6, we're like, hey, they might be the first one to fire their head coach. They might be making changes. There's a lot of things that could go on, but I never go against the Saints. I mean, the Saints defense is what I think is going to carry them, and Derek Carr makes enough plays to keep him in the game. As long as he doesn't screw it up at the end, that defense should be able to win enough games for him. So, 8-9 is not a winning season or anything like that. It's nothing great to have, but that's where I got him at, and right now. But just after their first preseason game, and I could see a big some of these receivers getting mad because some of those throws were bad. But Jake Haener had why aren't they talking about Jake Haener? He looked good too.
Yeah, but it's, whatever it is with a fan base, it's whatever new and shiny and whatever. Because last year they talked about Jake Haener too, and like, oh, this guy, they're comparing him to Brock Purdy. Remember all those things? Like, we drafted this year's, guy that's going to explode onto the scene, and Derek Carr was out there and good enough and battled through injuries. Like, Derek Carr is very tough. Like, I mean, we've seen it. The guy gets on the field, stays on the field, and he's competitive. When teams teeter in the middle, at a certain point, you go one way or the other. And when I'm factoring that in, I look at what's the ground the coach is standing on? What's the ground the quarterback's standing on? And if those two positions are on shaky ground, I just don't see the teetering going north. It goes south. The win total is not going to jump from 7 wins to that many wins. It's going to jump. It's going to fall. So
is this team a team that's a candidate to be sellers at the deadline, you think?
Yeah, some of the veterans.
Marshawn Lattimore will be an asset. I think people will be looking at maybe some other guys. I think
Chase Young's on a 1-year deal. Somebody might be looking for that.
Alvin Kamara, anybody? Maybe. I think Chris Olave would be their untouchable guy, but everyone else seems like might be on the table.
I think a lot of some of those guys, offense wise, Rashid Shaheed is somebody that I really like. I think A.T. Perry. When I watch A.T. Perry. He flashed in the preseason last year. He did it again in game 1. I get so frustrated because he has similar measurements to Quentin Johnston. And I was like, A.T. Perry's going to be a 6th round draft pick. I think they drafted him in the 5th round. This guy's going to go way later, and he's got similar everything. If we're looking for just measurements, why aren't we waiting to get a similar player in round 5 or 6 as opposed to in the 1st round? And we're passing on really other positions of more need last year. Wide receiver to me wasn't a need, or it was I feel really good about 3 of the wide receivers. I don't think this is a spot we should be drafting in the 1st round. Anyways, I think A.T. Perry is a good player. I think he's somebody else they'd like to keep around the roster. So there are guys like that. And then there's guys like DeMario Davis, where it's he's bounced around a little bit, but he's also putting together a Hall of Fame resume. If you go back and look at DeMario Davis has been an all-pro 1st or 2nd team 5 or 6 times in his career. He's really put together a nice career. Cam Jordan, another guy I think is going to get Hall of Fame jacket someday. So I think those guys stick around, but Yeah, they
Lattimore to the Chargers. I'm just trying to will it into existence, Tony. Lattimore to the Chargers, week 6 or so is perfect little injection of some fire to the secondary.
That'd be fun.
So, Tony, what's your division ranking again? Go ahead and say it.
Yep. So we're gonna do this right now. I'll go through. I'll start. I have the Buccaneers winning the division at 10-7. The Falcons coming in second at 9-8. The Saints in third at 5-12, and the Panthers in last at 3-14. Mike?
Falcons at 11-6, winning this division. Let's go. Kirk Chains. Yeah, baby. Buccaneers at 10-7 like Tony, but just losing it out by one game, probably a wild card team. Saints at 7-10. Honestly, though, you guys convinced me to lower this. And then I have the Panthers at 5-12.
I got the Falcons at 9-8, winning that division. Saints 8-9, Bucks 7-10, and the Panthers at 4-13 to round out the bottom of that. So, playoff teams. How many playoff teams out of this division for you guys?
2 if they stay healthy.
I have one. I just have the division. I have my wild card team is from the NFC North. So
yeah, I have one. I have the division winner, and that's it.
Yeah, which makes sense. But now it is time to get into the most underrated, out of left field division last year in the AFC South. I don't think anybody saw some of these teams in the AFC South having the types of seasons they did. I was 1,000% wrong last year on this division. I think I had it in reverse order. AFC South predictions. We're going to start again with who do you think is going to be last place? I'm going to go to NFL Mike first. Who do you have last place in the AFC South?
Last place in the South was really hard, Tony, because I don't think any of these teams stink enough to only win 5 games. But you're looking at the schedule, looking at the way things break down. You have to give a team in this division 5 or 6 games, and the worst team in this division to me is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not super confident in this prediction. I had the Jaguars going 5-12, and it all completely falling apart for them. I have them starting off 0-4, then going on a second 4-game winning streak in the tail end of the season to the Lions, Texans, Titans, Jets, Raiders in a row. And it's just, I had a hard time doing this to the Jaguars, and Jaguars fans aren't going to agree with me. And I don't think that they should be a 5-win team with Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, and this defense. But I just don't think that they've put together the weapon core to keep up with some of these other teams in the divisions. And they're going to lose some close games to the Titans and Colts and Texans this year. It's going to damage their record a ton.
What was the record prediction?
I had them going 5-12. I don't feel super excited about saying that, but that's how I have it on the schedule.
Okay, Joe.
I don't think Jacksonville fans are going to be mad at you, Mike. They're all used to disappointment. Most of them are Charger fans. Of when the Chargers moved from San Diego to LA, they picked Jacksonville for some reason. I don't know, but I too have the Jacksonville Jaguars at the bottom of this division. I have them with one more win than Mike does. I got them at 6-11. I just don't like their defense that much, and how they gave Trevor Lawrence that contract is fucking nuts to me. It's just the NFL, but I don't get it. I'm not a big believer in it. I don't think they've shown me what I thought. Trevor, they're going to use Etienne more than and use like I wanted more out of Etienne last year, and they used him a lot, but they didn't use him the way they like. It took until like the third or fourth quarter to actually start seeing like, oh, there we go. There's Etienne out of the backfield, like. But looking at the rest of this team, like everybody else is taking a giant step forward, and it just seems like the Jaguars are going backwards again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm more optimistic. I still have them finishing third. I thought I was going to be the low person here. I am completely blindsided by you two having them this low. I have them at 8-9, finishing third in the division. I do think I'm a bigger fan of Gabe Davis. I like that acquisition. I think he does fit the offense a little bit better than Calvin Ridley, even though I think Ridley's the better player. I like the acquisition of Mitch Morris. I think it's important to get a veteran center there to help out Trevor, to help that offensive line. Also like the acquisition of Ronald Darby. Although, is that an effect of him playing in Baltimore in that scheme around that much talent? I did also think it was interesting. They got both of the interior guys from LSU who were really high recruits, but didn't quite live up to that level of production once they got to LSU. But Jordan Jefferson and Mason Smith, Mason with 2 A's, wouldn't even let me type it. Like the artificial intelligence kept correcting it to Amazon. I was getting pissed. I just ended up spelling it the old classic way. Anyways, I'm getting off onto something that doesn't matter at all. I think with the Jaguars, they're in a weird situation where it's like Doug Peterson is a good coach. He's won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. What's going on? So then I looked at it last year and I was like, they're 8-3. Trevor Lawrence gets injured and guts through the end of the season, and they end up missing out on the playoffs in last week or last couple of weeks, need to win and get in type games. And I look around at it and I go, I don't really have any reason for like why maybe I picked a game to go the Titans way or go the Colts way or whatever it is. But there's just something about the Jaguars where I'm like, what is it that they do really good? I think they're going to do really good. That's going to win them a bunch of games. And like, has Trevor Lawrence shown to be like that massive difference maker outside of having the greatest second half ever against Brandon Staley in a playoff game? Like, he's had moments, the comeback in the Cowboys game. And I think there was a game against the Eagles where he, put on some magic. I don't know. Like, I just feel like a 9. I had him at 9-8. And then for whatever reason, I finished with an 8-9 record. So I got him in third place. And I do think there'll be some conversations about coaching and potentially with GM there, Trent Baalke. Because that's
when you look at this offense, the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, it should be a good offense. Like, they have weapons, they have. I don't know. I want to see more. I want to see what is Brian Thomas going to add to that. You got, like you said, is Kirk going to come back 100% from his injury? So it's just, I like the offense. I have more questions about the defense than anything else, like holding leads and being able to stop teams from scoring. I'm not a big like that Armstead acquisition. Like, it didn't make me go, oh, amazing that. And then Josh, I mean, we can't call him Josh Allen no more, right? Josh Hines Allen is his name now. Is he gonna benefit from those extra guys on the line? I don't know. I think Jacksonville, to me, had more question marks, and maybe I'm just higher on some of these other teams than that, and that's what dropped them. But
yeah. Well, maybe they'll get a special teams boost from Mike's guy Parker Washington.
There you go, the kickoff legend. He's going to be a Hall of Fame kick returner. But yeah, I just got a bad taste in my mouth from the Jaguars last year. That's really it, because when you look at the roster, like Joe's saying, it's there. They should be good. You're just in a really tough division, and the taste of last season is still in my mouth, and it's going to be hard to get it out of my mouth until Trevor Lawrence goes out there and looks like a fucking MVP.
Joe, keep it together, Joe. Keep it together. I know.
That right there, that little 1 minute talk that Mike just did is a great fucking clip right there.
That was about 15 seconds for one, and for two, Joe, you can't make any jokes when you literally put your dick in another Raiders fan's hands and post it all over the internet.
You just said, Mike, you had taste in your mouth from last year, and it's hard in your mouth.
You backed up like 7 yards and ran directly at another man and put your dick in his hands. He held it.
First of all,
play the clip. Where's the MJT editors when you need them? Play the clip.
Yeah, see, you don't even have the clip. And that's all you got? That's all you have? There's a lot more things I've done, Mike, than that. So
it's worse.
Time out. Let's get back on track here.
Okay.
Yeah, back on track.
Who'd you have last, Tony?
We'll get to that. That's not how the show's. We're not working like that. We are working like this, though. We are going to go to Joe, and because you said who your last place team was, so now we're going to let Joe lead off. Joe, who is your first place team?
Did you see this comment right here first, Tony? Does this mean anything to you?
Yeah, no, I hear what he's saying, that there is, like, he is the most accomplished, but he also has shown that there's a lot of sort of average seasons on that resume. even with the Eagles' talent and stuff like that. Like, even I think after the Super Bowl year, they still went to the playoffs. Carson Wentz gets injured early on in that game, and Nick Foles has another maybe game or end of the second half. Like, I mean, also too, like, I know it's only a 1-year sample size, but what DeMeco Ryans did last year is a pretty impressive turnaround. You know, like, I don't know. Like, to me, I think Shane Steichen has shown that everywhere he goes, great things happen. So I don't think that, even though Doug Peterson has a Super Bowl on the resume, I don't think that the gap is like that huge of a difference. Like, I don't think of Doug Peterson as being like an offensive, you know, as offensively sharp as Shane Steichen. I don't necessarily think that the run game and, you know, that the impact can be had there is that big of a difference, because you get a team like the Titans that have Bill Callahan on the staff, which I think is a major factor.
There's a very accomplished coach that finished last place in his division last year, probably the best coach of that division, and he finished last place and not even in the league this year. So, I mean, accomplished. It's the NFL. What have you done for me now? Like, you start losing out. Just because you're the most accomplished doesn't mean that you're keeping up, and these guys aren't out coaching you now. Anyways, first place in the division, I'm going back with I'm going to run it back with the Houston Texans. 11-6 is what I have. 11-6 for the Houston Texans. Offense just got stronger. They added more to the offense. We'll see how much, like, the Joe Mixon acquisition is one that I'm still questioning, and I want to see how good it is, because towards this time at the end of Cincinnati, we were like, does he still have it? Because there were some times on the goal line where he was just getting stopped, right? He wasn't even getting in the end zone, and you're like, what the hell is Joe Mixon doing? So I questioned that one. And then the Diggs, is Diggs going to stay happy? Is he going to start fighting with them? But I like, Tony, you already know that how I feel about Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I like both of them. And I think this defense only improves in year 2 under DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, I have the Texans top of the division too at 11-6. I think that they've had one of the most impressive off seasons, like from a free agent standpoint. I know that Denico Autry is going to be out for 6 games because of PED suspension, but you bring in Azeez Al-Shaair, who played for him in that defense in San Francisco. Danielle Hunter, like bringing over a guy with that much ability to put him opposite of rising Will Anderson. Now, like, Will Anderson might get less chips, might get more one-on-ones. I think that's extremely dangerous. I think they also added guys like Jeff Okudah, but if he's like your CB3 or rotational or whatever, like, now all of a sudden you're adding more depth on this defense. The rookie they drafted, Kamari Lassiter, is like, played at Georgia, versatile player, safety, nickel, like, these things matter. I also like the addition of a guy like Cade Stover, who can come in and I think is going to be willing to be there, in the run game and focus on that, because you have Dalton Schultz there. So I see the Texans as one of these teams that have put together, have said, this is our opportunity right now. It might not get any better than this. We're going to bring in Diggs and we're going to just go attack everything we can. 11 wins. I had them at one point 13-4. I just think with how tough this division is, and this division has to play the NFC North too. Like, so those two divisions this year matching up against each other is really, really interesting, because I think all 8 of these teams are on some version of the rise or some version of interesting. And that is extremely intriguing to me. Like, these games that previously would have been like Lions Texans, you would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to watch this. And now it's like, I can't wait to see this game. I'm probably going to watch the game in real time and then watch the replay again to see all the things that I missed. So
I'm with you. 100%. Yeah. I'm 100% with you in the love for the Texans. I have them winning the division as well at 12-5, and for all the same reasons you guys do. I think this is a top 5 wide receiver core. And I think that a lot of people are now underrating Diggs. Before they were overrating Diggs as, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, top 5 guy. I think that he's firmly still a top 10 wide receiver in this league, and he's gonna be very good with CJ Stroud. All of the issues that he had in Buffalo and in Minnesota, it seems to start to come up after a couple of years of struggling. So I think Diggs will be good for these 2 years, attitude-wise and excitement-wise, to go out there and attack this thing. And that's their window, Tony. They're in a championship window, I think, 2-3 years or so. I have them at 12-5, but I really think if a couple of these tough games on this schedule go a certain way, they can be one of the teams that compete with the Chiefs for that first spot. I think the only two names you didn't mention, Tony, is the secondary. They also have Petrie and Singletary taking another leap in the secondary. If both those guys can take the jumps that we've seen them take over the last couple of years from year 1 to 2 to now, I think it's even going to get nastier for him, man. I have as much confidence in the Texans defense as any team in the league to improve a ton this year. And they were good last year.
Yeah, I think the acquisition of getting a middle linebacker like that you can pair with, they got Christian Harris out of Alabama to give him a little bit, more.
He's very comfortable too. Like Azeez can just go in there and he's ready to just play. Let's go.
Yeah, they're going to have, I think, really good talent at all 3 levels of the defense. The question here from Kyle, I appreciate these questions. They're a lot of fun. And like to hear your thoughts on them too in the comments. Just gotta ask them. What do you think about it? I do see Hunter as an upgrade. I think that it's one of those things where it's like Minnesota was like, hey, I don't want to pay a guy this old the same amount of money that I could pay somebody who's on the rise. So it's like Hunter's at his peak right now. They're paying somebody like Jonathan Grignard in Minnesota, who was with the Texans last year. We think this guy can ascend even a little bit more. And the Texans are saying, we want a guy who's a bona fide fourth quarter. This team is coming back on us. It's 3rd and 7. You're getting man on man. We need you to go get this done player. And Danielle Hunter. He was the Vikings game last year. He was a nightmare for Herbert in that game. It was,
he's an absolute beast. But I think I've always thought that Hunter is up there with the best pass rushers in the NFL. It's just been a health thing. I think he brings that next level of explosiveness in pass rush and is as good in run defense as Grignard was. So I think that's what they're going for, is to try and add to speed up the quarterback even more than Grignard could.
Yeah. And I think Grignard is perfect for what Flores wants to do too. Like that very aggressive style. I think he's going to have a great year there. So, I could see it as an upgrade. I don't necessarily know that I would go that way. If I had to choose, I would choose slight upgrade, but I think it's pretty washed out for different reasons. The last thing I want to say about the Texans, unless Joe has something he wants to add, is I think one of the biggest things for them was not losing Bobby Slowick to a team like the Panthers. Right, you're in that situation where now Slowick is like, he gets another year in the offense. CJ has the ability to take that next step. And then who I think, not even pound for pound, maybe one of the toughest men ever, is Tank Dell. It's just like, dude snaps a leg last year, gets shot in the offseason, and he's like, oh yeah, preseason? What, you need me to catch a touchdown and break a couple tackles? I got you. Your boys still got it. Like, this is fucking impressive. Okay. We've not hit my last place team. So do we want to go there or?
Sure. Scared, yeah.
Okay.
I'm terrified.
Now, tighten up, everybody. And I have the Titans here, but I think this is the best last place team in the league. I just look at the schedule for the Titans, and there are too many stretches where they have brutal games in a row that I think I lean for them. I had them at one point at 7 wins. It ended up being 5-12. But I think when we look at it, whatever their win total is this year, if it's on the lower end, we're going to go, oh, the Titans really have something there. Because I like what they've done to the left side of the line. I think J.C. Latham is going to be a player for them. Then you got Skoronski next to him. They signed, was it Quessenberry, I believe? Where's my notes here? Yes, they signed center Lloyd Quessenberry. So I think that kind of center to left tackle is going to be real nice there. Like the addition of Tony Pollard at running back here. I was a little brutal on him maybe in my estimation of how he was last year, but now he's another year removed from a pretty severe leg injury. I think that helps him out. I really like the acquisition of Tyler Boyd too, somebody there that's comfortable for Will Levis over the middle of the football field. And then I look at like some of the departures as like, I mean, you're losing Derrick Henry. It's brutal. You know, you're losing Azeez Al-Shaair and DeMeco Ryans. Like they lost a lot of talent on this defense, but I just think that they've put together a team that's compelling. And once Hopkins is back, I know that the Titans are going to be entertaining. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to be fun to watch the Titans, as in where years past, maybe it wasn't as fun. They were playing close defensive battles. I think the Titans are going to score some points this year and make every game interesting and worth watching.
I think we're pretty in line, Tony. I want to know what Joe thinks of the Titans. Joe, weren't you a Will Levis guy, or am I tripping?
I'm the Will Levis believer on the show, but which is kind of, you know, you guys are sitting here going, you believe in Will Levis, but it's 5-12. It's like, yeah, but it's also there's gonna be highs and lows in this. I think Will Levis is amazing for that Mayo commercial. That is hilarious. If you can. The parody in that and his commitment to it was so funny and so great. I really, really enjoyed that from Will Levis. Kyle's saying that it's one of the most boring teams, and it's like, I think that's what they have been. I don't think that's what they will be going forward. I don't think you have this kind of
this year. Yeah. You got Chig. You got Chig at tight end. You got Ridley outside. D-Hop coming back. Treylon Burks doing whatever Treylon Burks can do. What's left here. Yeah,
two running backs.
Yeah, 2 running backs. I think that they have the roots of a good team. It's just, and I don't usually like factor in injuries to my predictions, but when I look at this roster, I think it's very unlikely they keep it together throughout the entire 18-game season. And I kind of reflected that in my predictions. I actually have them 7-6 at a point in this, and then losing their final 4 games to go 7-10.
Okay, Joe.
Well, I'm not that low on the Tennessee Titans this year, and I've been trying to build up their offense in my head, and you guys know that when we do our fantasy drafts and stuff, I've been talking about Tony Pollard having a good year. I like the wide receivers. I was impressed with what Will Levis did towards the end of last year. There was a couple – I mean, he wasn't perfect. There was some things that you looked at him and go, can he improve on that? When they first hired Callahan, I was like, oh, what are we doing? And now I'm starting to believe in the Tennessee Titans just a little bit more. Their defense is a question mark, right? You saw a couple of their backups get ran through by Mason, the running back in their first game. They went out and got the 2 safeties from Seattle and brought them in. They brought in Snead from Kansas City. So I think once we see their first string defense on the field and what they could do, it's going to be an improvement. So I have the Tennessee Titans, Tony, actually finishing second in this division at 9-8. I just think they're going to put some points up. I have them at 9-8, and that's where I have
them. Yeah. Whoever's the furthest off on the Titans has to wear Will Levis's cologne for a year.
For a year?
I already smell like mayonnaise, so it's all good.
My wife will not go for that, and I cannot afford a divorce. So I'm going to pass on that, but I appreciate you throwing that in there. I was going to say, like, if I just had to wear like a mayo scented cologne once to, like, you know, like I think that'd be a funny bet. Like if you had to go to a party wearing mayo cologne and then we just followed that person around with a camera and got people's reaction to somebody like smelling mayo. I think that would be it could be a funny video. Kyle makes a point here about it being a backfield that is built more for the pass game. I don't necessarily think that's bad. In the type of offense, like the type of league that we're in now, like I do think that can benefit you, especially if you might be in some more high-scoring games. I think the defense, it's weird because you lose Mike Vrabel, and then all of a sudden you're like, you think the defense might not be as good. They just lost a lot of pieces defensively, where I kind of want to see how it comes together, what the new defensive coordinator looks like. I think it's somebody who came from Baltimore, so it'll be interesting to see Denard Will. I don't want to say a name. I can't remember everybody's name. But
right. Denard Wilson.
Denard Wilson? Okay.
Also, this 60-40 split that he's referencing is right around the league average. So it's not like saying like, oh, they're going to be this pass-heavy team to say they're going to pass 60% of the time. That's around what everyone's doing.
I read it as their abilities. I think he said that they're like kind of like 60-40, like they're better pass catchers than they are legit runners. That's the way I interpreted Kyle's comment. I could be wrong.
Like the strength scale.
Yeah. Like if you were saying like, what do these two? Because like, imagine if you do get into a game, it's cold weather, and you trying to protect a less than 3-point lead. You're gonna want to be able to pound the rock a little bit, and I think that's where he's saying there might be a bit of a weakness there. So I just think that they're going to be interesting. Week 1, Titans Bears. Like I know that I'm jacked up to watch football, and any game is good games, and I'm watching preseason games, like they mean more than they do. But I think that that's a really interesting game 1, and not just because Caleb Williams is involved. Like I think the Titans bring a lot of juice to the game too, so I'm here for it. And if the Titans are better than 5-12, I'll be happy for them. Like I don't have any ill will against the Titans. It's just this is how it shook out for me.
I got Titans over the Bears. Week 1. Upset.
Over the Bears week 1.
There you go. Close game.
Bears at home. That is an upset. Like coming off of Hard Knocks, and
that's gonna make every Bears fan cry.
I do not have that as an upset. I think week 1 that it's gonna be rocking at formerly Soldier Field. I don't know what they call it now.
Yeah, whatever they call it nowadays. Please, let's talk about the Colts.
Yes, let's talk about the Colts. Wrap this show up and get out of here. Who wants to go with the Colts? I led the last one. Mike?
Yeah, I got it. I love the Colts, man. And I just hope that Anthony Richardson can be smart and slide. Just slide. The dude got injured so early in last year. He probably should have gotten injured even earlier, because there were multiple moments in games that I was watching where Anthony Richardson could have slid, but instead tried to run over 2 defenders. And it's like every time that happens, I'm just like waiting for him to get up off the ground. Like just doom, 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 doom. And sure enough, eventually they got him, and he was out for the season. That's the biggest thing. I had them starting slow with this difficult schedule, and then really speeding up in the second half of the year. In fact, I think I had them finishing the year like 9-3 or something. Some crazy strong run towards the late part of the season to end up 10-7. I hope that he can just stay healthy, man, because I see this offense has so much of the components that we've seen quarterbacks with Anthony Richardson's style in the past, Cam Newton, succeed with, and that's just that superstar running back, that really good rushing attack to feed off of that read option to play and read the RPO game, the run to pass option. As I stutter my way through this, I hope the Colts are really good, because I'm a real big fan of a lot of players in the team.
Yeah, Joe.
Well, on that offense, you have 3 people that play hard, and their style of play doesn't last over amount of the 18-game season. In Pittman, in Taylor, and Richardson, all 3 of them put their bodies on the line, and they're not afraid to lower that shoulder and make the hit when they need to. But they also miss some time, and that's the crazy. If they can all stay on the field and be good, then I'm going to root for them. And one of my favorite guys, and I talked about him, is Josh Downs, and he's hurt right now. But I like Josh Downs and what the Colts can do with him. Again, I always go back to the defense, and I thought the Colts defense overachieved last year, and we've always talked about. We're like, this is one of the defenses that are shutting offenses down, and we don't know anybody, really know anybody on that team. Can they continue to do that and be good, another good defense, and play above? I would say play above their talent on that defense is what I'm looking at. As the rest of the teams, like the Titans and the Texans continue to throw more weapons at you. So that's why I have them dropping. I have the Colts going 8-9 and third in their division.
The Colts front seven, man. I'm excited to see what they do. But I didn't mention it too, and Joe brought it up. Guys that like to play hard. Like you look at the receiver core a year ago, last offseason to now, right? Draft Josh Downs to now, and it is just completely flipped. Like Richardson has so many guys to mask this accuracy issue that he has, where you just throw a ball high up in the air and they're gonna go get it. Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, A.D. Mitchell, and then Josh Downs in the slot, Jelani Woods at tight end. I mean, the list keeps going. Do they still have Jelani Woods?
Yeah, I believe I saw him out there in preseason. The guy is just a giant. I think Bucky Brooks called him a billboard. He's a walking billboard, just so tall and broad. Like
he reminds me of Julius Thomas a lot.
Oh, I could see that. He's not quite as fast, or doesn't look as fast as Julian Thomas. Maybe not as lean. I really wanted the Colts to win the division, guys, so badly. I had them at one point at like 11-6, and the Texans at 10-7, and I was just like, this just doesn't seem right, and I ended up flipping back. I am going to say this right now. I know we'll do predictions for stuff, whatever. Latu is going to be the defensive rookie of the year. I thought it really hurt him, the Samson Ebukam injury, but I like Shane Steichen as a coach and what's going on there. I do have them. I finished my final record prediction for them settled in at 9-8. I can see them winning 10 or 11 games this year. I think that the defense is going to be still just being able to get after the quarterback. I really like that. And I think that they might have a sneaky special teams guy in Anthony Gould. Was a smaller, speedier guy that they drafted. And if he can give them a little bit of a boost there, that's going to help out. And again, I think that there's something that needs to be said for teams that recognize that they have core players and they sign them. Grover Stewart is one of the most underrated players playing D tackle, and he's out there. DeForest Buckner is a guy that is often forgotten about. If he played his whole career in San Francisco, we would look at him completely different. He is a monster on the inside. Mm-hmm. So I just really like this, and I think Kwity Paye can continue to take a step up. So I'm a believer in this, and the linebackers for them, Zaire Franklin, EJ Speed, another two players where it's like these guys play so fast, so reckless, they're so talented that I think that they can compensate for maybe a couple of spots in the secondary where you're unsure about some things like that. So I really like the Colts. Wanted to put the record higher, and I settled in second place, 9-8.
I just wish their schedule wasn't so tough, man. This schedule's tough.
All these, like I said, all of these teams that are in the South, the AFC South, and in the NFC North, their schedules were some of the hardest to predict for me.
They are lucky, though. They get Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, Jaguars as their last five. So it does lighten up during the playoff push if they can stick around 500 by then.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We always look at that kind of stuff, and it's like, you, especially when it's your team, you look for that part of the schedule where you're like, oh, there's some wins in here, and it's like, then you get there, and it's like, there's no wins. So the team is, falling apart. So you just gotta win the battle of attrition. Joe, you were gonna say something. Do you remember what it was?
He's gonna say bolt up.
No, I think I was gonna say something about the defensive line. Like that defensive line could be what pushes this defense. And like I've always said, like you don't have to have the greatest secondary if your defensive line puts pressure on the quarterback. And that rotation right there could be something to keep an eye on as we continue. I think the Colts' biggest issue is because I wanted to give them more wins too, Tony. Like you said, I went 8-9. I think the biggest issue that's sticking in my head is just injuries. And I know we can't predict injuries, and we're not supposed to. We're supposed to be like you're supposed to be like, if everything is 100%, this would be the record. So like you said, I could see the Colts winning the division. I could see the Colts with the worst, but that's why I went 8-9. But I would like to see them as a better team, and they have the potential to be a good team. But I just think staying healthy is going to be their issue this year.
So I think it's fair in this situation. It's fair to incorporate the injury thought, Joe, just because of the play style of the quarterback specifically. Like, I go into each season, I know it hasn't happened yet, just scared to death that Josh Allen's going to get injured in week 3, like every single season. So, like, that play style of Anthony Richardson, I think it is fair to be worried about that.
So here's the thing, and I forgot to mention this because you guys are talking about the 3 players that they have that have injury concerns on the offense. Joe Flacco is a solid backup quarterback. And with these weapons, he's somebody where it's not going to necessarily fall off that far. If we saw what Shane Steichen was able to pivot to with Gardner Minshew, I'm pretty sure he can pivot to something similar with Joe Flacco and still be successful. Pittman Jr., A.D. Mitchell, if he is healthy 6-7 weeks into the season, something happens to Pittman, you have A.D. Mitchell there. You have Josh Downs hopefully back at that point. Alec Pierce, if he makes the roster, is in that position to step up and play a bigger role in the offense. And then at running back, I can't quite quit.
Trey
Why
Sermon.
that'd be good, but Trey Sermon can play some ball. So like they have backed up these positions with guys that have talent or experience or pedigree of some kind that you're like, yeah, I think they can be okay to bridge. And that's, again, why it's like, man, why I couldn't give them another, why couldn't 10-7 and have them on that playoff bubble? But, like, again, for this
are probably laughing right now. 49er fans are probably laughing that you said Trey Sermon's name right now. But I don't think people have realized how good has became and to get his career back to where it's at now.
Yeah, I think sometimes we give up on players too early. Donta Foreman had a bunch of injuries with Titans. He's now resurrected his career. Zach Moss, he's done the same thing once he gets out of Buffalo. You know, he's now on his 3rd team, but he's been productive. And I think Trey Sermon can be that sort of player where it's like you get him into the right offense with the right offensive coordinator and they're healthy. Not to say that Shanahan shouldn't have been that for him, but you're more mature. You understand, like, how to be a pro, what to expect, kind of where you are in the pecking order, and you just have a different perspective. So predictions, I'm going to list mine off. AFC South as follows: the Texans 11-6, the Colts in 2nd at 9-8, the Jaguars in 3rd at 8-9, and the Titans in 4th at 5-12.
I got the Texans at 12. Go ahead. Yeah, Texans at 12-5. I got the Colts at 10-7. Come on, stay healthy, guys. Titans at 7-10. And I have the Jaguars at 5-12. Ugh.
I got the Texans at 11-6 to win the division. The Titans at 9-8. The Colts at 8-9, and the Jaguars at 6-11.
Good. I like it. It's all different in this division. Like, you know, real discrepancies from win totals. We got a Titans guy in here, even though I'm gonna, you know, I'll harken back always to what I said about Will Levis. I'll correlate to fantasy football. You know, you always find ways to take your wins. You always find your ways to be right about something. That's why if you always say positive things, you always have something to draw on, right? You always have something to say like, oh, remember when I said this about whatever? And then when people go, well, you said the Titans were only going to win 5 games. Don't worry about that. Remember all those positive things I said about Will Levis?
Ignore that part.
Come on. I always had your back. Yeah. But none of that really matters. We appreciate you.
You can just go with my strategy, Tony, and just pretend like you didn't say things when he said them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm the older I get, the more I'm always trying to find the positive for all things in life, not just the NFL and the great entertainment it provides for us. We appreciate you guys watching these South breakdowns. We appreciate comments in the chat. Alex Leatherwood represented in the house. Don't know if he's going to make the roster, but yeah, comment. Well, what do you think your team's going to, finish? How are they going to be? Hope season. We want to hear it. Everybody's team is going to the playoffs this year. I know that. All 32 teams, fan bases, think they're going to the playoffs. It's Friday. Have a great weekend. Say something positive to these guys about preseason action. Find a rookie. Tell them good play, good hustle. Way to show some heart out there. Just those small things that we could put out into the internet. Very helpful. Joe, Mike, anything you guys want to say before we sign off this show?
I'm with you, Tony, on the positivity. Positively hit that like button, everybody, and subscribe to the channel. Notifications on so you can be here next Friday. We go live every Friday, 11:15 to 11:30, somewhere in that time range. We hit that live button and we talk some football. So if you guys want to be here for it, turn on notifications. And also, how could you find a co-host better looking than Joe Morley, right, Joe?
There it is.
True. I think somebody did say that in there. Joe is awesome. Mike sucks.
What was that? Who said that? Who said that?
But anyways, I was just gonna say, let the hair flow, guys. Let the hair flow.
Wind in your hair.
All
beautiful. Joe's flash banging us right now. I don't really know what that means. I'm gonna spend some time. I'm gonna ponder about it over the weekend.